Welcome to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murders of Jamal Varkazia and Tony Walker. Both were shot on Monday, May 7, 2007, in the 100 block of East Washington Boulevard in Pasadena, according to LA County coroner records. Jose Elias, Joseph Reese, and Eric Perez were subsequently arrested and charged with the murders. The following is the evidence at trial. On May 7, 2007, at around 2 p.m., Ms. Shea was outside her home on Washington Boulevard. A gold Dodge Intrepid passed but made a U-turn and came back, now westbound on Washington. 3 Hispanic men with bald heads were in the car. 2 men sat in the front and a third in the back. Shea saw 1 gun, maybe 2, come from the driver's side of the car, although she couldn't tell who held the gun. Tony Walker was sitting in the parked car, and Jamal Varkazia was running across the street towards Walker. Multiple shots rang out and Shea dropped to the ground. Someone shouted, "Villa, fuck PDL." Varkazia was lying in the street and Walker was in his car, both shot. Walker and Varkazia died of multiple gunshot wounds, 4 each. Neither victim had soot or stippling around the wounds, meaning that the gun was at least 2 feet from the victims. Scared, Shea didn't immediately report what she saw. Instead, she was in custody for having a fraudulent gift card when during a monitored phone call with her sister, Shea mentioned the shooting. Detective Keith Gomez then interviewed her. From a photographic 6-pack, she identified Elias as the driver, Reese as the rear passenger, and Perez as the front passenger. She said that the front passenger was chunky or calf-like, while the back passenger wasn't as big and looked younger than the driver. Sometime in early May 2007, Johan Montoya, a Villa boy, was jumped outside of his house by 4 to 5 men who came out of an SUV-like vehicle. Montoya later also told an officer that on May 7, 2007, he was near the scene of the shooting when he saw a gold Dodge Intrepid, which he recognized as a Villa boy's car, speed by with 4 Hispanic men with shaved heads in it. Elias, known as Dopey, was driving the car, and Montoya thought that Reese, known as Brujo, may have owned it. At trial, Montoya denied making these statements to the officer. Montoya went to school with Elias and he knew Reese as Brujo. Bullet casings were recovered from the scene of the murders. All casings found at the scene were Remington Peters 9mm Luger caliber, a common brand of ammunition, and were fired from the same weapon. The bullets or fragments from the victims' bodies were consistent with having been fired from the same weapon, although it is possible they were not. It is likely that the casings at the scene and the recovered bullets and fragments came from the same gun. The People's Firearm expert saw no evidence of another gun having been fired at the scene. On May 16, 2007, Detective Grant Curry accompanied Ted Ham, a canine dog handler, at a station identification. Curry had 3 detectives take the 3 defendants, Reese, Elias, and Perez, up the elevator to different rooms on the 3rd floor of the Pasadena police station. Neither Detective Curry nor Ham knew where on the 3rd floor the defendants were. Detective Curry then gave Ham 3 bullet casings recovered from the crime scene and a .32 caliber gun. Using a scent transfer unit, or STU, described as a modified dustbuster that Ham wiped down with alcohol after putting on gloves, Ham extracted scent from the 3 casings and placed it on a sterile gauze pad. Ham did the same with the .32 caliber gun, placing a scent on a different gauze pad. Ham brought his dog Bojangles up the elevator to the 3rd floor and let Bojangles smell the pad containing the scent from the casings. Bojangles immediately went down the hall, making turns, and led Ham and the detective to Perez. After Bojangles smelled the pad with the scent from the casings again, Bojangles this time led them to Elias. Pasadena has 5 local gangs, including Villa Boys, which has about 70 documented members. The Pasadena Denver Lanes is a blood gang and a rival of Villa Boys. Villa Boys' primary activities are robberies, assault with deadly weapons, attempted murders, narcotic sales, and stealing vehicles. Elias and Reese have gang tattoos. Elias admitted to Officer Perez that he was a Villa boy. In her opinion, Elias and Reese, as well as Perez, were Villa boys, and the crimes were committed for the benefit of the gang. That Elias and Reese were seen driving around and flashing Villa boy gang signs in the days following the murders only confirms her opinion. Following the trial, the jury found defendants Jose Elias and Joseph Reese guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder and brandishing a weapon, but acquitted the 3rd defendant, Eric Perez. On April 23, 2010, the court sentenced Elias on counts 1 and 2 to life without the possibility of parole, plus 2 consecutive 25-year terms. The court sentenced Reese on counts 1 and 2 to life terms, each with a 15-year minimum, plus 2 consecutive 25-year terms. Tony Walker was 37 years old at the time of death. Jamal Varkazia was 20 years old at the time of death.